задавать странные вопросы, задавайте вопросы по существу, по фильму, по сапогах 3D. Итак, пожалуйста, если есть вопрос, поднимайте руку, задавайте. Я думаю, что тогда, вот, да, девушка. Если можно, тогда представляйтесь, говорите, какое издание и кому именно вопрос. То есть Степан Ануфриев, Подольский городовой и дальше. Да. Прошу.
Степан, меня зовут Сусанна Альперина из «Российской газеты». Здравствуйте. У меня очень простой вопрос и к Антонио в первую очередь, и к Сальме. К сожалению, мы слышим кота в сапогах здесь, в России, в дубляже. И даже в Шреке это говорят другие люди. Поэтому у меня к вам даже не вопрос, а просьба. Чтобы мы поняли ваши интонации, скажите, пожалуйста, несколько слов голосом кота в сапогах и голосом кошечки. Спасибо большое.
You want me to speak like I am fluent in Russian? Because I don't know how to speak Russian. I can say, спасибо, baby. Well, what happened actually, the process of making these movies, and this may make sense to some people and not to others, but the process of making these movies is not only just the use of your voice, which is the main part, but not the only one. When we are called to design these characters, we are called also, in some cases, to San Jose, Silicon Valley. We have meetings with the creative people and the cartoonists who are going to work straight, directly on the cartoon, you know, the manufacturing of the movie. We have conversations with our director and everybody who is involved in the creation of the movie. We give our input, we give our ideas, they ask us as an actor what do we think about very specific scenes and how we want to attack them. They take all those notes and then we receive the real script in which we're going to start working, doing the first sessions in the studio. Now, when we work in English, in the first version of the movie, we don't work with the animation in front of us. We are absolutely free to do whatever we want and just to set up the character in the way that we feel. We're even allowed to do a lot of improvisation. We are recorded by cameras while we're doing it, and sometimes I even ask for some of the elements that the character used in the movie, like the hat or a little plastic sword that I can play with. So that material later recorded is given to the cartoonist so they can take actually the little nuances, the little details that you incorporate into the character out of your face, literally out of your body language, and which makes a very interesting and freaky experience the first time that you go to the movie theater and you see some of you actually in a little pussycat. What's your experience, Sальма Хайек?
Well, I'm just getting upset because they didn't ask me as many questions and I definitely did not get a script. So I'm just making a list of complaints when I go back to America. So I didn't even get a script. I just got like situations and then we started working on the situations and doing scenes out of that. I don't know how to do it, it's very fancy equipment. And then later on, like he said, I start seeing the character once they have been recording us and designing the character a little bit in the likeness of us. But what I liked about the character is that she's very strong and she's funny and she's always challenging Puss and she's always trying to stand her ground and be smarter than her. And I think this is great, but she's not super sexy. Because it's the typical cliche, you know. She is in a very special way. The typical cliche of the cat, you always think, you know, she's the cat. And Kitty Softpaws uses, you know, her charms and skills when it's needed, but she's a little bit of a tomboy. She's tough, and I really like this because in a lot of movies I just play like the sexy girl. It's boring.
You know that you have to think also that we do the Spanish versions too. So we add our voices to a market of around 700 million people around the world. And I do also the Italian version, and I am thinking in the possibility of doing the Russian version someday, which is going to be very difficult. And I tried, and it was very close to do the Japanese one. This is serious. No, it's serious because I did some commercials in Japan, and but at the end, Jeffrey Katzenberg thought that it was a very crazy idea, so I didn't do it.
Ну, мы все помним, как Арнольд Шварценеггер говорил по-русски, какие ваши доказательства. Следующий, пожалуйста, вопрос. Вот, джентльмен, да.
I heard you.
Мне придется больше не шутить.
Антон Михалёта, MTV. Вы играете кошек, котов. Скажите, а вот если бы вам предложили каких-то других животных сыграть, какие животные вам близки, какие вам нравятся? Спасибо большое.
Wow, that's interesting. I don't know, actually. I don't know, because in my family we have a very strange relationship with animals. You know, normally mothers-in-laws, they have a little doggy, and normally they're little. Well, my mother-in-law has 72 lions. It's absolutely the truth. She got them in a ranch 1 hour and 25 minutes on the north of Los Angeles. She has been doing that for many years. My wife, Melanie, has been raised among lions and tigers, which says very much about our relationship. And, but I have pictures where Melanie is 14 years old and she's taking a nap, literally with 2 lions. And that scared the shit out of me, you know, when I first met her. But I don't know what animal I would like to play after Puss. And I've been offered a dog, but they are more submissive. I like cats because they are independent and free-spirited, a little bit like me. My wife and I, we are both from August. We are both lions in the zodiac, and she's from the 9, I'm from the 10. I think I am what I should be.
I would play any animal. I love animals, all of them. I have 10 dogs, 1 cat only, 4 parrots, 2 guinea pigs, 4 dogs, 20 chickens, 5 horses, and 4 alpacas. It's true, huh? So I just love animals.
Если есть в этом зале люди, воспитанные жирафами, поднимите. Тогда поднимите, кто хотел бы задать вопрос, да, пожалуйста. Если вы громко скажете, я думаю, вас...
Здравствуйте, я из Санкт-Петербурга, Марина Питерская, жена Макса Школа. У меня вопрос к Сальме. Немного хочу писать мультиком, мне бы очень хотелось бы узнать. Вы очень часто люди любят актеры сниматься в экранизации русской классики. Мне хотелось бы узнать, хотели бы вы сняться в экранизации русской классики? И если да, то какую героиню вы бы себе предпочли?
Мультипликационная экранизация?
Wow.
Можно и отлично, да. Очень длинный вопрос, да. Сейчас зачитываю список классиков, которые...
I love you for even asking that question. But I don't know that Hollywood is ready to cast Mexicans as Russians yet. You know, we don't get to. It really limits your possibilities of what you could play. But I'll tell you, I think that the Russian passion and drama, it's very close to the Mexican. And I know even our novelas, they are shown here in Russia, and some of them do really well. Well, a long time ago I did a novella and I was told it was shown in Russia, but you probably don't even know I am the same girl as them. And I think that we are, the Latin people and the Russian people are very romantic, and we're very passionate, and I always find very, very connected to Russian people and literature and stuff, but I just don't even dare to dream because I know it would never, but it would be silly for a Russian to hire me to come play a Russian. They'll know I'm not. I hope somebody writes a novel about a Mexican woman that comes to Russia and becomes a classic.
Но если все-таки удастся, то кого хотели бы сыграть? Если удастся сыграть...
Just like my father, father when Melanie came to Spain for the first time. My father thought that if he speaks very loud, she would understand him. And so he was screaming all the time. You know, we have to eat! That's so cool.
Следующий вопрос, пожалуйста.
У меня вопрос к Антонио Бандерасу. Скажите, пожалуйста, вам как человеку, уже на экране, обращавшемуся очень умело со шпагой, пришлось ли что-нибудь советовать коту в сапогах? И вас устроили его движение на экране? Спасибо.
С клиники Бурденко, по-моему.
Not at all. No, think about this. I arrived to the United States 21 years ago. I was 31 years already, and I'm called to do a movie in which actually, I couldn't speak the language at the time, so I'm called just for the use of my language. This movie, in a way, for me, is a paradox, which is great, because I never thought that I was going to do something like that. I love this character. He allows me the possibility of laughing of myself, and he allows me the possibility of laughing of the things that I have done already. Mocking characters that were in the epic side of making movies like Zorro or Desperado that I did with Sальма Hayek. And so I'm very thankful, because the first time, I mean, it was no doubt in my mind that I wanted to do this character, because actually I saw Shrek 1 in the Cannes Film Festival on competition in front of all the European intellectuality, just laughing. Now, I think the movie serves many different purposes. You can just go from movies that are made for entertaining, pure, frivolous, whatever, but you want to have that if they are done sincerely and with dignity and honesty. And you have movies that reflect about the human condition and the complexities of the human soul. And I love to do all of that. In the last 2 months, I have the opportunity to actually just put those two worlds together, almost interlacing them. I was presenting the Almodovar movie, Skin I Live In. Meanwhile, I was just doing the promotion for this one too. And I just love that possibility. It's just having, as an actor, you know, feel the possibility of feeling these two different worlds. I cannot ask a guy who has been just putting bricks the whole entire week, or just fixing a road, to go on the weekend with his girlfriend to see 8.5 by Federico Fellini, because maybe they want to watch The Mask of Zorro and just have fun and just have some popcorns in a bucket and eat. But there must be some other movies also for other audiences. I just like to play all of those worlds, and I'm very happy with this guy over here. I love him. I think he loves me too.
Пожалуйста, да, следующий.
Добрый день. Сальчиков Михаил, журналист из Санкт-Петербурга. Мы все помним, что первый визит в Россию у Антонио был именно в Петербург год назад. Спасибо вам за это. Приглашаем Сальму тоже к нам в город.
You will answer that, or should I go?
You can start.
Okay. All right. For me, the big decision at the beginning of the process of making this character was the first time I recorded his voice, because we didn't talk. I mean, they showed me some of the pictures of the character, but we didn't record it. We didn't talk about what type of voice we should provide the character with. So then when I saw the size of the character, I thought, well, maybe he should have a very thin voice like this, and just try to make a character that speaks like this. But we said, no, hold on. Let's just go in the opposite direction. Let's just go and provide him with a very suave voice. And he speaks like this. Because then he established a contrast. A contrast in what he is visually, very little kitty cat, and where he feels he is inside. And in that contrast you find humor. I think that was a great decision when we made that choice, just to go over there. And then establish also the rhythm in which you want to just portray, you know. And so that's actually the little choices that you can have in a movie that is not a traditional movie. That is a movie that actually is done by a team. Movies in general is the work of a team. But in this particular case, and it would be stupid for us to just don't say that, is teamwork, very strongly. But you have your choices and you have your opportunities. What was that? Interesting.
Yes, I love humor. I love it, and I think it's very important. But I think that my sense of humor has changed through, I have all kinds of sense of humor, but once you have children, it changes because, like, for example, my daughter, nothing's funnier than the pee-pee caca kind of joke. If you...
Kids are very stuff.
Any joke about, hello? Any joke about pee-pee caca, and I know it's going to work, and no?
We are actors, we are supposed to project our voices.
So I actually made up a joke in the film that I thought they were not going to put it in because it's a little eschatological. And I was very happy to see that they left my joke in the film. I don't know in the translation how they're going to do it, but they are wondering whether we should take this little animal or not. And I made this line that says, guys, it's a gold pooper. Of course we're taking her. And I was so happy because when Valentina saw it and I say that line, of course we should take it because she goes caca, but it's gold caca. And when my silly line, I said it, she was laughing so loud and I was so happy because she has taught me a new silly sense of humor that actually helped me to come up with jokes for the film.
Kids are very eschatological in an everyday basis because they deal with that all the time. You know, they have it on hand.
В общем, каждый найдет юмор для себя. Пожалуйста, так. Будьте добры, да.
3D, the question was about 3D, okay. We don't know yet. Really, we don't know yet. I have a little studio that makes also animation movies in the south of Spain, and I remember when I was talking with my guys, my cartoonists and my creative people about 3D as a possibility, they said, no, we don't want to do that, we don't want to be just throwing things on the screen all the time to make the feeling of depth and stuff like that. But 3 months after, they were experimenting with the system and they started discovering things. They started discovering a language there, something that was interesting for them. And they said, no, now we are not so against it. There are certain things that are fine. And I know that Hollywood actually took that option for 2 different reasons. The first one is just to bring more people to the movie theaters because Hollywood was dropping 11% of audience annually, like 2-3 years ago. It seems that it's stabilized now again. So there is one fear that something that you can obtain in a movie theater that you can't obtain on a television set. So just to make a differentiation. The second reason was piracy. Piracy. If you know the possibility that you can see a movie in 3D cannot be pirated, for them was a big issue too because they were losing a lot of sales because of that. So now, is that going to be, it makes sense to make an intimate movie in 3D? Maybe not now. Maybe not now. But maybe in the future, our brain gets used to that. It happens in the history of motion pictures from the beginning, from silent movies to sound movies, then to color movies, then to CinemaScope, and you know, and at the end, the new technologies always end up winning the battle. Now this time, probably we are at the end of something, maybe the format in which we're going to see stories, recorded stories, and shot stories is going to be different. We don't know that yet. We are on the verge of that. We are like the world. We don't know where we're going.
I think that, you know, the film experience should be that. To go to the movie theaters is an experience. I think being in a dark room with a lot of people creates a sensation as it is, but it has to continue to evolve. And sometimes, some movies are not maybe right for 3D, but for example, I loved Avatar. I love going to the movies and being taken into that world and feeling like I was there. It's about creating a fantasy and escaping somewhere else. And I just went to see The Lion King, the re-release, because I watched them all. And I saw it when it came out, and I loved it. And I just went back, and I experienced Africa in a different way. You know, to go with the birds and just being there, it really takes you to the place. So I actually do like 3D in the right places. Before, the lenses used to really bother me, but now they're getting better and better, so I like it.
Спасибо.
Just looking at them from a totally different point of view, from a different angle. So, in this case, can be the story of Zorro, or some of the stuff with Desperado, because we're working together. Yeah, there are winks of an eye to the audience, but when you see the movie, in the whole entire length of the movie, you will see that there is a narrative that is its own. And those things are little details, little things of life. What do you think, Sальма Хайек?
I think that because it's got cat humor and a cat perspective, even though, yes, there's little aspects of the other things, the film is really original and it's got its own style. And I'm very proud of that because Shrek was amazing, and I'm glad that we can...
But we didn't have you.
But what? You didn't have me. I'm glad that we can take this extraordinary character and the illusion of having humor at the same time that works for the little ones and for the grown-ups, but in a completely different world, because I think that Puss in Boots has a world of its own, and I like it that it's unique. We don't want to, obviously.
Дамы и господа, к сожалению, последний вопрос. Вот девушка, которая очень воспитанная, просто встала, чтобы поздороваться. Давайте, задайте вопрос. Да.
Меня зовут Ольга, журналист «Архив». У меня вопрос и к Сальме, и к Антонио. Сальма, вот ваша героиня такая дерзкая.
The one thing you can be... Sure, I'm not. But I do love fighting with Antonio and trying to tease him and provoke him. This is a lot of fun. If you can make him get a little angry, not too much, but just a little bit, it's a good sport. It's a good sport. It's a good pastime. And I've been very lucky to be able to do this for, I don't even want to know how many years. So in that sense, I think we have this in common. I do love to dance. I'm not too bad with the sword either. And what else? Yes, and I always feel like sometimes you have to, it's the girl that ends up having to do everything, you know, all this strong man, but at the end of the day, a lot of the time it's the girl that gets to do all the work.
I don't know, I would like to have probably more things of my character, Puss in Boots, that I have. I would like to have that manipulative powers with that weapon that he uses with his eyes. I would like to have one of those weapons that can convince people from anything. You know, I mean, he just put those eyes and anything is on his feet. But I share with him a certain humor for life, a certain look at life. I would like to be as heroic as he is, but I am not. As epic as he is, but I am not. But definitely we share our love for women. That's something. He actually with more success than me, though I don't complain about the wife that life gave me.